So YouTube, cell phone messed up the video, so gotta do the video again because the video got messed up. So I apologize. The title of the YouTube video is called "Sex Game: The Top 22 Greatest Action Stars of All Times." This one might be 25 to 30 minutes. I apologize that the video got deleted, but I will re-upload it as soon as I get the names that were lost into the video. Usually this doesn't happen, but it's an old cell phone. It's a long name of the title, and it will get re-uploaded once again. Alright, the names: Will Smith. Now, Will Smith basically did Men in Black. That was one franchise. Wild Wild West, that was two. Bad Boys. Now he did a television show called Will Smith did a television show called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And a lot of people thought Will Smith could not do comedy. So Will Smith and eventually proved the naysayers and the critics wrong, and then he found his way into movies. Now he did do a movie where he played a gay biracial man, and then he ended up breaking ground, and he was able to do what other actors could not do. And you fast forward today, Will Smith has made it big. You know, he does a movie called Suicide Squad, and he's like almost in his 50s, and he still has it after all this time. He done Bad Boys, you know, he done Wild Wild West, he turns around and does Men in Black, 3 movies, he does I, Robot, he does all these movies, and they're big hits. Independence Day, that's a classic with Will Smith in it, should have been in the sequel. And basically, I still got it. On the other hand, you have Daniel Craig. Nobody thought Daniel Craig was going to be anything. He did romantic movies, comedy movies. He's like 150, 160 pounds, and people didn't think he was going to make it. And then all of a sudden, we see the trailer to Casino Royale. And the man puts on 30 pounds of muscle, and what do we get? He's James Bond. And he's been in 6 movies. Before that, he was in Tomb Raider. And then he pops up in James Bond and gives us 5 to 6 movies. Now, you can't have a list called Action Stars without Will Smith's name on it, without Daniel Craig's name attached to it. So they're both tied for number 22. Coming in at number 21 is Danny Trejo. Now, this man's been in Hollywood for like almost 4 decades. And that's like almost 100 films. The guy's played good guys, bad guys, werewolves, vampires, cowboys, and a lot of people need to give this man a lot of respect and a lot of credit because this man was a part of a big movie franchise. Like, he should have been a part of this movie franchise. He did a movie called Machete, and when he got into Machete, it was a smash hit. He came back, he did a sequel. And this guy was in a lot of movies. And he's also tied with another big action star, Keanu Reeves. Because Keanu Reeves is by far one of the biggest action stars in movie history. A lot of people got to show this man some respect in the game. You know, that's like almost 100 movies, okay? His debut was in a movie called Desperado, where he had the guy, you know, he was taking out Antonio Banderas, and he gave him a run for his money. So, Robert Rodriguez, I'm still waiting for Machete Part 3 and Machete Part 4. I'm still waiting for those movies. And you look everywhere you go, there's a restaurant with his name, Danny Trejo. You know, he's been in movies, television shows, commercials. He was in Spy Kids. This man is on the list because he's been around since the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. That's almost 4 decades. You gotta show Danny Trejo some respect. Keanu Reeves, we know Keanu Reeves. We've seen John Wick, all 3 John Wick 3 movies. You're going to get a John Wick 4. We've seen The Matrix. You're getting The Matrix 4. You've seen Speed. You've seen Point Blank. Those are Keanu Reeves movies. And the guy's been around for 3 decades, and the older he gets, the better he gets. So Danny DeToro and Keanu Reeves is tied on this list. I thought about it last night. I said, wait a minute, I forgot all about Keanu Reeves. So I deleted the video and we're doing it all over again. So it's gonna say 2.0 part 1 because I forgot about Keanu Reeves. So he's on the list now because I know somebody gonna come mention it. At number 20 is Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot was considered as eye candy, and she proved that she can go from being eye candy in 3 movies to doing a movie called Batman vs. Superman. People didn't think she can do it. She was from Israel. She was in the Israel army, so she was good at doing training, and then she transformed her body to play Diana Prince, aka the Wonder Woman. And the best part of that whole movie was she got the biggest standing ovation. Like, nobody was cheering for Batman. Nobody was cheering for Superman. They was cheering for her. Like, when you see Ben Affleck as Batman, look at Henry Cavill's Superman, and he goes, I thought she was with you. And he go, I thought she was with you. Everyone was cheering for her. And that was the best part of Batman vs. Superman. And she followed that up by popping up in Justice League. Before Justice League, she was in Wonder Woman, and the movie was a critical hit. She's getting Wonder Woman 1984, which is a highly anticipated sequel. So you gotta be surprised that she's on the list, because before all of that, she was in a franchise called Fast 4, then Fast 5, and then Fast 6. So she was in multiple franchises. So you gotta show Gal Gadot some respect and some credit, because this woman went from eye candy to kicking ass and taking names. Coming in at number 19 is Henry Cavill, Superman. Did a movie called The Immortals. Now, The Immortals is better known as a test run. Test run means to see if you're fit to play Hollywood big budget movie. And the movie basically did A, B, C, and D. Then he ends up in Man of Steel. Once he does Man of Steel, he's in Batman vs. Superman. He's in Justice League. And then he pops up in another franchise called Mission Impossible. And then he pops up in another franchise that we all know very well. And that is The Watcher. Now, don't tell me about The Watcher, because I haven't seen season 1, but he got bigger and he got jacked up. Bigger than he was in Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and the Justice League. Like, he got bigger for that role than those 3 movies. And I like the idea that he should continue playing Superman. His career's just gotten bigger. It's just gotten more hotter. And I can't wait to see him in more movies. So you got to have Superman on the list. Coming in at number 18 is a tie. Is Christian Bale and Ben Affleck. Now, both are legends. Both are icons. Both have played Batman multiple times. Christian Bale became the first actor to play Batman 3 times in a movie franchise. Now, it should be Michael Keaton, but he played Batman twice. They fired the director. Tim Burton got fired, and Michael Keaton said, if the director walk, I walk. And, we had Val Kramer, we had George Clooney, but Christian Bale played Batman 3 times. He did a movie called The Machinist, where he lost like 80 or 90 pounds, and then he puts on some 50 or 60 pounds of muscle and transforms his body, and then he did something else that most actors don't do. He transformed into Batman and gave us the Batman voice. And on the other hand, we have Ben Affleck, who looked like the closest iteration to the character of Batman. You know, he comes in Batman versus Superman. Now, the movie wasn't that good, but the fighting, all of the fighting scenes were really good because Ben Affleck was jacked up. Like, would you want to go into an alley and get your ass whooped by this person? No, you don't. Like, you really do not. And he was in Batman versus Superman. He was in Suicide Squad, and then he was in Justice League. And that Batman had a lot of potential. Like, just imagine if they actually made Batman Arkham Asylum into a movie. So these two are on the list for being the best Batman. Christian Bale did Batman 3 times. Ben Affleck done Batman in 2 movies and a cameo to make it 3. So one did play the character 3 times. The other one looked like the Batman from the comic books. So that's why they're on this list. Coming in at number 17 is Gloria Zendana. Now this woman's a part of multiple movie franchises. She did, you know, same thing. She had done. She was considered eye candy. She had did movies, television shows, and she told the producers, "I want to be taken serious." They laughed at her and said, "Get out of here." And she proved them wrong because she popped up in a movie called Star Trek. Did 3 Star Trek movies, and then she turned around and pop up in another franchise, and that was a movie called Avatar. And James Cameron, I'm still waiting for Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5. But she sat in the makeup chair for 8 long hours and then played the character. And then she had her own smash breakout movie, Colombiana, where she got into intense training to play the character from the movie. And then she gets the movie role of a lifetime to play Gamora in Guardians of Galaxy. And when she does that movie, you're shocked because why? She's basically showing you. She plays Gamora in Guardians 1 and 2, the Avenger movies. And to do all of that at her age, in her late 30s, early 40s, most women would say no thank you, but she does it with such class and beauty. So we gotta have her on the list, because she has inspired other women to follow in her footsteps. Coming in at number 16 is Van Diesel and Paul Walker. Now, Van Diesel wanted to just produce, write, and direct. He didn't want to act. And he did a movie called Saving Private Ryan. Yes, Matt Damon was the main character in that movie, and he met Steven Spielberg. Most people do not get to meet their favorite idols. George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Van Diesel met all of them. And after he did Saving Private Ryan, he does a movie called Pitch Black. Universal Pictures love it. Put him in Fast and Furious. He does that. Then he does Triple X. Then he doesn't come back for a while. And then he does the sequels. And you fast forward today, you've got like Van Diesel in a bunch of franchises. Fast and Furious. You got him in Guardians of Galaxy as Baby Groot. Then you got him in Riddick. You got him in all these franchises, Triple X. So Van Diesel has got compared to Arnold Schwarzenegger. And when you get compared to Arnold Schwarzenegger, that's incredible. And he's producer of these movies. On the other hand, you have Paul Walker, God rest his soul, rest in peace. And why is it kept closed? The only 2 reasons why I watched the Fast and Furious movies is because if it weren't for Van Diesel and Paul Walker, I would not watch those movies. Every time I watch those movies, 2-3 hours later, I would most definitely go ahead and do what? Get on my baby moped motorcycle and drive up the hill without my helmet and get in trouble 3 times by the sheriff because I was watching those Fast and Furious movies. the rage that you see Paul Walker have in the first movie where he drives, that's how I feel when people rejected me in high school and in college. And playing the character Brian O'Connell is legendary. Same thing for Van Diesel as Don Toretto. Being defiant, don't want to be told what to do. Some of that is my personality. So if it weren't for Van Diesel and Paul Walker, I would have never watched the Fast and Furious franchise. It's because of them two that I watched the movies. So put Van Diesel and Paul Walker on together. Coming in at number 15 is Chris Pratt. Now, a lot of people couldn't believe it that he was a comedian actor, and then all of a sudden they said Star-Lord. People laughed. And he put on like 30 pounds of muscle. And when you watch the trailer to Guardians of Galaxy, what do you see? You see a guy jacked. And he took the movie role serious. A lot of people gave him hell for it. I like when he was a serious motherfucker because he has passion for movies. And he becomes the character that he plays. And then someone still kept making fun of it, so they put in the magazine article, Chris Pratt's getting ready for both Jurassic World movies, and they put, he's going to get jacked for a dinosaur, and he had to read the magazines because why? He ended up fighting the dinosaur, so he was in 2 Jurassic movies. Then the Avenger movies. His movie career is going to get better and better and better. And I like people that's passionate. I like when he's serious. Moving on, coming in at number 14 is Scarlett Johansson. Now, you know why Scarlett Johansson's on the list. I find her very physically, sexually attractive. Yes, I have a big crush on Scarlett Johansson. I've watched all her movies. Every man, and I mean every man, has a female celebrity crush, okay? Before she did the Marvel movies, she did a movie with Edgar McGregor, aka Obi-Wan Kenobi, called The Island, where she already was in athletic shape doing this type of movies. And somewhere in the future, you kind of knew she would be kicking somebody's ass later. She popped up in Iron Man 2 as Natasha Romanoff, aka the Black Widow. Then she ended up popping up in another movie. Captain America, Winter Soldier, Civil War, the Avenger movies. And outside of that franchise, she did a movie called Lucy. Still waiting for the sequel. So she's basically broken ground and barriers. Because now she's getting her own movie called The Black Widow, which I can't wait to see. And basically, that's why you gotta have her on this list. So you gotta show Scarlett Johansson some respect and some credit because to do multiple movie franchises, then she does a movie called Ghost in the Shell. Now I know it's still controversial that an Asian actress should have played the main character. But people still broke their neck to go see the movie. And I saw this one guy that had the t-shirt, the action figure, the comic book. Because it was that big of a deal. It came from an anime and a video game. So that's why Scarlett Johansson's on the list. Coming in at number 13 is Robert Downey Jr. Now I'm going to say it once and I'm going to say it again. Thank you, Robert Downey Jr. Thank you, Robert Downey Jr. Thank you, Robert Downey Jr. A part of my childhood was watching a lot of these cartoons. We had Batman, we had Superman, we had Blade, we got Spider-Man, but there was one thing missing. Iron Man. And for him to play that character for almost a decade and a half, that's incredible. And to convince the producers to let him have creative control of his character. Most television studios and film studios would never let actors have that much power and control creative-wise of their character. But they trust in Robert Downey Jr. to let him do it. Then they go outside the franchise and do Sherlock Holmes 1 and 2. And I can't wait for Sherlock Holmes 3. So that's why Robert Downey Jr. is on this list. Coming in at number 12 is Chris Hemsworth, tied with Chris Evans. Now, Chris Hemsworth is like another Jean-Claude Van Damme because the guy was able to make it in Hollywood. You know, he did Thor. He did Thor Dark World, which a lot of people know that's a bad movie. But it wasn't until he did Thor Ragnarok that people really liked him as the character of Thor. Of course, there's the Avenger movies. Then he put on the 30, 40 pounds of muscle. And I'm like, is this a professional wrestler or is this a superhero? And the fact that now people wanting to see him do these movies is incredible. And that's not just the only movies he's been in. Back Hack does a movie with Ron Howard. So he's like a young version of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like, you could imagine Van Damme do these types of movies. That's who he reminds me of. On the other hand, you've got Chris Evans. He was a comedian actor, just like Chris Pratt. They're best friends in real life. They have a lot of things in common. And a lot of people didn't think he could play Captain America. Yeah, there's the Fantastic Four movies, but Captain America was different. That first Captain America film, that's a part of my childhood. The idea that you can get punked, bullied, can't get the girls, and then you transform into Steve Rogers' Captain America, and then you look good kicking everybody's ass with a big shield. And then the sequels were better. Winter Soldier, Captain America, Civil War. I mean, the Avenger movies. I mean, you have to put my man Christopher Evans on this list. So Thor and Captain America are on the list together. All right. Coming in at number 11 is Jason Statham and Hugh Jackman. You didn't think I forgot about Wolverine, did you? That's right. You didn't think I forgot about Wolverine. Now, Jason Statham is also like another Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, he is both an action star, a legit actor, and a martial artist. And the guy can kick ass and take names. And he's been a part of multiple movie franchises. He's been a part of the Fast and Furious franchise. He spins off, teams up with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, turn around, does Hobbs and Shobs. He first did a movie called Ghost of Mars with Ice Cube in it, and this one tall white girl, this name that I forgot, very hot and attractive. And somewhere down the road, you knew he was going to come back. And then he does like 3 movies with Jet Li that could have been a sequel franchise. He was in The One, At War, and then he pops up, does a movie with DMX. Then he pops up in these Fast and Furious movies. And then he's done the Expendables. And then he did his own movie called Transporter. 3 Transporter movies. So the guy's a part of like 4 or 5 different franchises. And he also showed that he has good range as an actor. Because he did a movie called The Bank Job and another one called The Italian Job. Both movies are based on true stories. And he's been around for like 2 decades. And on the other hand, we've got Hugh Jackman. And guess what? He started off as a Broadway theater actor that did comedy. And somebody said, make him play Wolverine, and somebody laughed. And by the time he got X-Men 2 United, he put on 35 pounds of muscle and was the biggest I ever seen. And then the spinoff from that, and do the spinoffs, the Wolverine movies. So that was like 2 franchises in one. Then to turn around and do Van Helsing. Then to do some voiceover. He's big time. And to play one comic book character for like 17 years, that's almost 2 decades to play one comic book character. And he's won Oscars, Academy Awards. A lot of people want him to come back in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's 50-50 if he comes back. So basically, that's why he's on this list. Coming in at number 10 is Jet Li. Jet Li is like the second coming of Bruce Lee. He's done like literally almost 100 films, and he's been in the game for Hollywood for 3 decades. And he brings his heart and his passion. There are movies you have seen. There are movies from the 80s that you have never seen him do. The ones where he don't speak very good English. And then he got his start in a movie called Romeo Must Die, Lethal Weapon 4. Then he does his own franchise, Black Mass 1 and 2. And then he turns around and does other movies. The Expendables, The One, At War, Cradle to the Grave. Those are some gently movies right there. And the guy gives you his heart and his soul. Like, he may not go to the nightclubs and the bars like most big name actors, but when it comes to the martial arts, gently gives you his heart and his soul. Okay? If anyone comes really close to Bruce Lee, it's Jet Li. Class and respect, that's all you get from the guy. Nothing but the best. Coming in at number 9 is Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Now, he's a multi-millionaire, and he's led like multiple franchises. The Rock did a movie called Skyscraper, now it gets a sequel. San Andreas, it gets a sequel. That's 2 franchises. Fast and Furious, that's 3. Turn around and does a television show called Ballers. Then to go from playing college football to doing professional wrestling to doing all these movies, do you know how difficult it is to do that? And basically, he inspires people. Because as a kid, I wanted to be The Rock, the people's eyebrow. Yeah, so that's like, he's like a part of, and then I'm still waiting for, he did a movie called Hercules. I'm waiting for Black Adam. So I'm still waiting for that movie. So basically, that's why he's at number 9. Come at number 8 is my man Wesley Snipes. Now, Wesley Snipes did a whole bunch of movies: The Rising Sun, Passenger 57, Demolition Man. But he really hits it big with a movie called Blade. If it weren't for that movie Blade, you would have never got Iron Man, Thor, Captain America. You would have never got the Avengers if it wasn't for him playing Blade. Because Marvel didn't have to do what they did, but they did, and he said yes to it. And you fast forward 15 years later, you got all these superhero movies. So if it weren't for Wesley Snipes doing Blade, you would have never got the Black Panther. You would have never got Luke Cage. And the idea that he could be a black man doing martial arts is rewarding to him. He did it. And I watched all his movies before he became Blade. So that's why Wesley Snipes on here. Can't do a list without Wesley Snipes, can you? Coming in at number 7, lucky number 7, Denzel Washington. Now, Denzel Washington came at a period where not too many guys were doing all these action movies. And you look at his career, it's just gotten better. He does The Equalizer 1 and 2. He's done Training Day, John Q, Out of Time. He does all these movies. He even did a movie called Magnificent, The Book of Eli. These are all movies that he done. And Denzel Washington is the man. Every time you watch a Denzel Washington movie, you are seeing him say, my man, smiling. So Training Day, he did a movie called Hurricane that was based on a true story. Yeah, Denzel Washington's the man. And to me, if it weren't for Denzel Washington, you probably would have never got no Wesley Snipes, no Dwayne. You would have not got no Will Smith, no Tyrese Gibson. You wouldn't be getting black men doing action-packed movies if it weren't for Denzel Washington. His all-time classic, The Bone Collector. You got Queen Latifah in that movie. You got Angie Jolie in that movie. So yeah, that's why Denzel Washington's on the list. Coming in at number 6 is Doug Lundgren. Now, he's going to be tied with my man Bruce Willis, and I'll explain. Doug Lundgren is very talented. He's very tall. He's got charisma. He did martial arts. He did bodybuilding. He popped up in a movie in the James Bond franchise, which is rare. And then he gets the movie role of a lifetime. He plays Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. Then he pops up in other franchises. He does a movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme called Universal Soldier. Then he ends up in the Extendable movies. Then he ends up in Aquaman. So the guy's been around for 2.5 decades. Did a movie called He-Man. On the other hand, Bruce Willis does a franchise called Die Hard. Part 1. To this day, the first one is the best one out of all of them in the trilogy. People love Die Hard 2, 3, 4, 5, not so much. 1 is the best one, hands down. Does that franchise. Fast forward 20 years later, does a movie called Broken, which led to Unbreakable with Samuel Jackson. Turns around and ends up doing a movie called Glass, which he was in the end credits of Split. That's 2 movie franchises. The Extendables, that's 3. And basically, he's a legend because he does all these movies. And to me, they're both tied at number 6. Coming in at number 5 is Arnold Schwarzenegger, tied with Mel Gibson. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger went from bodybuilding to film. Most actors do television, play basketball, football, and baseball. Then they break into television and film. At the time, it was unheard of for a bodybuilder to come in and do what he did. And he gave us classic movies like Conan the Barbarian, the Destroyer, Terminator, The Last Action Hero, The Kindergarten Cop, Predator, Terminator, I'll be back. Go on, do it. Pull the trigger. Do it now. And if it weren't for Arnold Schwarzenegger, you would have never got Jason Statham, Chris Hemsworth, Lance Hemsworth. He opened the door for these men. On the other hand, you have Mel Gibson. He does a franchise called Mad Max 1, 2, and 3. Turns around and does Lethal Weapon. That's another franchise. Starts producing, writing, directing. Yes, both guys are very controversial. Arnold decides to become the governor of California, and Mel Gibson becomes film director. Both guys had challenges. Sex, fame, temptation. Both had their issues. But if it weren't for Arnold Schwarzenegger, if it weren't for Mel Gibson, you would have never got Chris Hemsworth, Lance Hemsworth, Jason Statham, Sam Worthington. You would have never got none of these guys if it weren't for these people.